Welcome to section 19.1, part 2. This is the 194th session of the CISSP exam prep series. Having covered investigation types and the forms of evidence, we now turn to the rules and hands-on techniques of digital forensics. In this session, we'll get practical about handling digital evidence. We'll answer several questions. Why can't a witness repeat what someone else told them? How do you support testimony with a visual aid? What principles guide anyone who touches digital evidence? How do you analyze disks, memory, networks, and devices without corrupting them? And why does every attack leave a trail? Why does this matter beyond the exam? Because one careless click can destroy the very proof you need. Suppose a manufacturing firm suspects an engineer stole design files onto a thumb drive. If you plug that drive into a live machine and browse it, you may overwrite the timestamps that prove the theft. Do it right, and the evidence stays pristine. The techniques ahead are what separate a solid case from a wasted one. Why can't a witness simply repeat what someone else told them? Because of the hearsay rule. A witness generally cannot testify about statements made outside of court, since the court has no way to test them. But this rule is famous for its many exceptions. The one that matters most to us is the business records exception. It lets records like system logs come in as evidence when they were created at the time of the event, kept in the normal course of business, and maintained as a regular practice. A qualified person still has to confirm those conditions. Think of a log as a diary the system writes automatically, day after day, without an agenda. How do you support a witness with a visual aid? You use demonstrative evidence. This is material that helps a witness explain a concept or clarify a confusing point. It may not be admitted as proof itself, but it makes the testimony land. A diagram of how a flood of traffic overwhelmed a server can turn a tangle of jargon into something a jury actually grasps. The trial court decides whether to allow it, guided by one simple test. Does it genuinely help people understand the case? Picture a whiteboard sketch that finally makes a hard idea click. What principles guide everyone who handles digital evidence? A respected body laid out 5 that anchor the whole discipline. First, seizing evidence should never change it. Second, only a forensically competent person should touch the original. Third, every action taken with the evidence must be fully documented and available for review. Fourth, whoever holds the evidence is responsible for everything done to it. And fifth, any organisation involved must comply with all of these rules. Think of them as 5 laws of a clean room. Break one, and you contaminate the sample. Why should you work from a copy instead of the original? Because the act of investigating can itself alter the evidence. Every time you open a file or run a tool, you risk changing what you are trying to preserve. So the golden habit is to duplicate first and analyze second. When you examine a hard drive, you make an image of it, seal the original in an evidence bag, and dig through the copy. Picture an archaeologist casting a mold of a fragile artifact and studying the cast, leaving the original untouched behind glass. How do you analyze storage media safely? Media analysis is the extraction of information from disks, tapes, and optical media. The cardinal rule is to never touch a live system's drive. Instead, you power the machine down, remove the storage device, and attach it to a dedicated forensic workstation through a write blocker. A write blocker is a hardware adapter that physically prevents any data from being written back to the device. Then you calculate a cryptographic hash of the contents, create a bitwise forensic image, and hash that image to prove the two match. Think of the hash as a tamper evidence seal. If the numbers ever differ, you know something changed. How do you capture evidence from a live system's memory? This is in-memory analysis, and it is delicate because reading memory can alter it. You use trusted tools to generate a memory dump and write it to a forensically clean device, like a prepared USB drive. That dump captures everything held in memory at that moment for later study. Just like with disks, you compute a cryptographic hash of the dump to prove its authenticity, then work only from copies. Picture trying to photograph a sandcastle before the tide comes in. You have to capture it quickly and gently, without disturbing a grain. How do you reconstruct what happened across the network? Network analysis is tricky because network data is volatile. If activity is not deliberately recorded when it happens, it usually vanishes. So this work leans on controls, already logging traffic, like intrusion detection systems, flow monitors, packet captures, and firewall logs. To capture live traffic without disturbing it, you use a mirror port on a switch or a hardware network tap. Both copy the traffic for analysis without altering the real conversation between systems. Then you hash and copy the captures like any other evidence. Think of a tap as a one-way window. You watch everything, but the room never knows you are there. What does software analysis involve? It is the forensic review of applications and the activity inside them. When an insider is suspected, an analyst may comb through source code for hidden backdoors, logic bombs, or other planted flaws. In other cases, they read application and database logs hunting for signs of attack, like injection attempts or privilege escalations. Software analysis also includes checking file hashes against a giant reference library of known good files, which quickly flags anything that has been tampered with. Think of it as comparing a suspect file's fingerprint against a national database of trusted ones. A mismatch tells you the file is not what it claims to be. How do you handle hardware and embedded devices? Analysts are often asked to examine everything from personal computers and smartphones to the embedded chips inside cars and security systems. These reviews demand deep, specialized knowledge of the device's memory, storage, and operating system. So an organization may need to bring in expert consultants because software, hardware, and storage interact in complex ways here. This discipline blends the skills of both media analysis and software analysis. Picture a mechanic who also has to be an electronics engineer to diagnose a modern car. One skill set alone is not enough. Why does every attack leave a trail? Because of a foundational idea in forensics that every contact leaves a trace. When two objects meet, something is exchanged, whether a fingerprint, a fiber, or a log entry. Digital forensics experts believe this holds true online too. Trace an intrusion and you find footprints everywhere it passed. Consider an attacker who injects malicious commands into a website. Their own device carries tools and logs. The network they used records their connection. The firewall and web server capture the malicious requests, and the database logs the commands that ran. Each contact point is a witness. Think through the full path of an attack, and you uncover a chain of evidence you would otherwise have missed. So let's bring it together. The hearsay rule blocks secondhand testimony, but the business records exception lets system logs in. Demonstrative evidence helps witnesses explain, while 5 core principles keep digital evidence clean, starting with never changing the original. You work from copies, use write blockers and hashing on disks, capture memory and network traffic gently, and review software and hardware with specialized skills. And through it all, remember that every contact leaves a trace. Carry these habits, and your findings will hold up when it counts. The MCQs covering all the topics and concepts from this session are available on rucloud.com. Practice the chapter-specific MCQs before moving on to the next session. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or feedback, post a comment below or email us. I will see you in the next session.